shouldn't take long. So anytime I select a number, I want it to go here or puts it out in the list. But when I actually selected the right number, I want it to be kind of like celebratory, like, hey, you won, instead of just saying like you won right here. So if I actually just refresh that, if I select 21, since 21 is the right number, I want this to like be a little more expressive, be bigger, just for the user to see. And I also might want to change my background to say like to some image. So on line 27 is where the condition where I win and guess the right number. So if I want to specifically target a specific element that is dynamic on the page, such as if I refresh, like if I do 5, 3, we'll just keep going, and then like 67, and that's the one I want. One, I always wanted to target, obviously the last number I picked is going to be the, when I win, is this last element inside of this list is the correct one, the one that I guessed correctly. So I want to target this last child element inside this list. And you can target that by doing like document.getElement by ID. And I think it's like number, can't remember, number list. I'll just say like let num list equals. If I do num list, it targets that. If I do num list dot, what is it, last child, like so, it can target that last child element. And you can explicitly change the style of, or add styles to elements in JavaScript by doing, if I go up, let last equals. So if I do last, it targets this last element like so. And then we can see that this is in fact 67. I can do last dot style dot color equals like blue. And that will actually change the color to blue. See how that 67 is now blue, like so. So you can do like whatever element you're targeting, dot style, dot whatever property, whatever CSS property you want to change. So it could be color, font size, background color, border, whatever you want. So knowing that, I can explicitly target the number list. So I can say like, let number list equals document dot get element by ID, number list. And then I can say number list dot style. And maybe I want to change the font size. I can do font size equals 80 pixels. Maybe I want to target the background color to be, red. And maybe I want the font color to be just like white. So if I click it again, if I like do 75, 40, 49, and then 17. Whoa, what happened? Did I mess something up? So document.getElement by ID dot last child. That's what I want, the last child. Because here it changes all of them. I don't want that. I just want the correct number. To change. So 97. Uh-oh. Why didn't it do that? I know why. So number list, U1, So if I just do change that number list, like so, that might work. So add number to list. So this is where, that's why here it's the one before it instead of 97 is because I add the number to the list at the very end. So it comes in here, it comes in here, adds that styling to that number, and then it adds that number to the list right there. So maybe I'll actually move this function up to up here. And if that's the case, that should work. So I can test that again. And then 82. And there, now it works. I can also change the background. So I can add an image to it. So I can do document.body to target the body of the page. .style, .background image. And I can add a background image by doing URL and find some celebration and image. So I can do like images. Oh, it's something with like white. This is good. Copy image address. Let's just make sure it doesn't have whatever. This is good enough, I suppose. And I can add that URL to this background image. So now if I guess numbers and then guess 19, it adds a background image. So that's one way you can just kind of make it a little more dynamic and a little more creative. All right. But let's talk about browser storage. So if I go to like Walmart or like Amazon, no, let's go to Walmart or Target.com. And I look over here. Let's just see if this works. Local storage. So inside this browser, well, actually, first, let's take a look at our network. So in network, you can see all the requests that come through. So when I literally just go to target.com, it just doesn't, it sends a bunch of other things back to see how I do that. And it just keeps adding items to it. Like there's so many assets that are being passed to my browser by just visiting target.com. And I wonder if I can find any like interesting ones, like transaction ID. I don't even know what the hell that is. Firefly Watchtower JSON. I don't know. Track. Oh, that's always a good one. I don't necessarily know what that means, but so we've got Google, a bunch of stuff. A lot of it's like CSS, HTML. A lot of it is JavaScript that like, whether it's like monitoring key metrics of the application or of the website, but it also will send stuff to track specifically what I'm doing on Target. So it's like whenever if you've ever like visited airlines and like we're looking for like a specific airline price, and then you come back to it and the price goes up. And then the more you come back to it, like the price incrementally goes up. It's because the browser knows, or that airline specifically knows that you're actively looking for a specific flight, and they track that in the browser, and they're sending that information back to the airlines, and they're doing some like data analysis saying, hey, this person's visited this website, or not just this application or the website, but also like looks for this specific flight multiple times. So the likelihood that they're probably going to buy is pretty high. So let's just keep incrementally like increasing the price of that airline price or airline ticket. The same thing happens in Amazon, Google, Target, Walmart. They keep adding items to your browser storage to track you. So if you look over here, this local storage, this is what was added to my browser storage from Target. So some of it's probably meaningless. So key, I don't know, session page counter, user percentile. I don't know what that means. So apparently they're tracking me as a user, 69.4%. User session. So user session count. Let's see if I refresh that and see what the user session count increases to. If it even increases at all. So user session count is now 4. So it knows during the session, I've visited Target 4 times by like refreshing. That counts as a new session. So they have all this. And so now it's 5. User ID. So every time I'm tracking stuff. So this is probably when this ID expires is on Tuesday. So tomorrow it will expire. So yeah, so that's just one. Let's see if Walmart, like what does Walmart track? So if you're kind of like eerie, like, oh my God, these websites track a lot. Yeah, this is it actually tracking you. So Walmart, sell points, like I don't even know what a lot of CDN tests, but all this stuff. This is how Walmart, all these applications, all these websites, all these companies track you when you're visiting their website. Any questions on how they do that, or just in general?
I'm trying to follow along within Safari. Is that also like browser specific?
Safari also has local storage too. So almost all browsers have local storage. Let me see if I can open up Safari real quick. I haven't opened up Safari in a long time. Walmart.com. So if I open up the console, I can do local storage, and you can see local storage in here as well in Safari. But so that's how they like target ads at you and just make your life easier or harder, just depending on how you look at it. But we can also do that with here inside of our number guessing game. So inside of our number guessing game, I want to know whether or not this user has visited this before. And if I have, I want it to display my name. And if I haven't visited this before, I want it to like say, I want to just display a field where I can enter my username or what, or yeah, my username. So it remembers kind of who I am every time I visit. So inside of this here, I want to say welcome. And I wanted to have a form, or not necessarily a form, but an input field and a button that I'm able to add my name to it. And if I visit it, if I type that in and visit, like come back and close the browser and come back, it'll remember my name. So let's just go into our index.html, and inside of our nav where it says number, let's play number guessing game. I'm going to add a div with an H1 that just says welcome. And I'll have an ID of just welcome. And then I'll also have another div that says enter, I guess, like, please enter your name, and it'll have an input field that says ID is the username, placeholder, I'll just say like username, and that's fine right now. And I'll also have a button that says submit user name with an ID of submit username. So if I come back here, it says welcome, please enter your name. And when I click Tom submit, I want it to update here that says welcome Tom. And then I also want it to remove this field. And then every time I come back here, I want it to say welcome Tom. I can close out this this tab, and I'll come back. It'll always say welcome Tom. So there's a couple ways we can do that. So inside of your console where you're interacting with the DOM, there's a method called local storage, or there's an object called local storage. Local storage. And right here, there's nothing stored in here. The length of 0, and because there's nothing in here. But local storage stores items like an object. It's a key value pair. So if I wanted to store something, I can say local storage dot, what is it? Dot get dot. Does anybody know the other one? There's dot get, and then dot
set item.
Dot item, set item, get item, and set item. So you can see, right? Set item. This takes in 2 values or 2 arguments. The key, such as like username or username, and then the value as strings. So like Tom. If I enter it, nothing really happens. But then if I type in local storage, you can see username Tom. So now if I wanted to get my username, I can do local storage dot get item followed by the key. So which is username. And I click enter, and you can see the value is Tom. So now I can actually save items to my browser. And now if I refresh this or close it out and run open index.html, open up there and type in local storage, my username is still there. And it will always be there until I clear my local storage, like explicitly remove it. There's a couple ways you can do that. You can go to, what is it? Does anybody remember off the top of their head? It's like, nope. Bookmarks, no. More tools, clear browser storage. Oh no, don't do that. There's like a way to clear it in the browser, or you can just do local storage dot clear, and it'll delete your entire local storage for this web page. But Walmart will still have local storage. So local storage is unique to each domain. So like walmart.com, this specific page will always, they'll have their own local storages. Oh. So when I click type in Tom and click submit username, I want to store it to local storage. So inside my app.js, I can target these I can extract the value from this input field and assign it to local storage. So I can say, so I can add an on event or on click event handler. So I can say like document dot get element by ID, submit username. I can either do add event listener, or I can just say like on click and enter a function. So I can get like let username equals document dot get element by ID.
You didn't create the error on the function.
Oh, thank you. Dot value. So I'm grabbing that username. And then I can set that item to local storage. So I can say local storage dot set item and say username, and you can call this whatever you want. I'm just going to call it username to equal username, like so. So let's just see if this works. So let's just check out local storage initially. So it's 0. If I click Tom, click submit, nothing looks like it happened. But if I go to local storage, I get Tom right there. If I change it, I can say like, Sarah, click submit, click up, username is now Sarah. I can always local storage dot clear to get rid of it.
Hey, Tom, I'm not sure if it's the same for Chrome, but I know in other browsers, I think that application tag, you can watch that in real time. You can delete it in the dev tools too. You can watch and clear.
So inside the dev tools.
Yeah, there should be another tab called application
Oh, right
And you
here.
can
Oh,
watch
yep.
it
So
in-
this is where,
in
yeah.
real time right there.
So yeah, so let's just try that. If I click submit, you can see all the different local storage items. There's also session storage. So session storage and local storage are very similar, except local storage persists after you close the tab and persists after you close the browser. Session storage is only available for that session. So if I were to like exit out of this tab, session storage wouldn't exist anymore. So local storage persists longer. Yeah, thank you for that. That's where it's at. Application, local storage. And then, yeah. So when I click and enter a username, I want to remove this input field. And I also wanted to say welcome to the new username. So, but the first thing I want to do is when I refresh this, my local storage has a user in there. So I wanted to say welcome Sarah or welcome Tom. So if I refresh that, local storage, I want to say welcome Tom. So I can create a function that checks to see if there's a value, a username in local storage. And if there is, then I can remove this div somehow, like these items. If not, then I can just leave it there. So I'm going to write a method called check. Yeah, like does user exist? Which I can say if local storage dot get item username, if a username exists, do something with it. So let's just see right here. I'm just going to console log local storage dot get item username. And then here, I'm going to just execute this does user exist function right there. So if I refresh it, Tom does exist. See, but if I clear it, like I'm deleting local storage. So I see local storage, it's 0 or doesn't nothing in there. nothing shows up. So this does user exist. If it does exist, I want to grab that username from local storage and set it, grab this element by ID and set the inner text or inner HTML to welcome username. So I can say, instead of console logging the username, I can say let username equals that. And then I can do document dot get element by ID. And that's the welcome ID. I can say dot inner HTML equals welcome. It's been a while since I've done string interpolation in JavaScript. Say welcome username. Like so. So if I do that, and I say Tom, enter. So nothing really happened yet, but username is there. But now if I refresh it, it says welcome Tom. If I keep on refreshing it, Tom stays there. But when I also, if there's a local username in local storage, I want to remove this part. So I'm going to have an ID here inside this div. It's called get username. It's called get username. And I can remove that entire div, including the children of that div, by doing dot get element by ID, get username dot remove. So now if I refresh it, it just says welcome Tom. And now if I clear local storage, now Tom is, there isn't any username in local storage. And if I refresh it, I get welcome and my form to fill out. But lastly, when I click submit username, I want it to update in real time. That's relatively straightforward. All I have to do is once I set the username to local storage by doing the on click, so this is actually setting the username, all I have to do is check, run this method again. Does user exist? And it should exist at that point. So if I refresh it, it works. So I can local storage dot clear. There we go. So welcome, local, no one's visited this page before, local storage. I'll just say like Julie. Now I click submit. It says welcome Julie. And if I kill that and then open up the index.html again, welcome Julie persists. Any questions on local storage?
Hey, local storage stayed there after you closed the browser, the whole browser out, or did you just?
So if I
What-
close the entire browser out like so, and I'm just going to open up a new window like so, just so when I open this index.html, it has something to go into, it persists.
So it's gonna stay there till we clear.
Until you clear the local storage, correct?
So clearing the cache, like in your browser history, would clear that also, right?
Yes, it should clear everything. Where's that application? So if I were to clear cache storage, it should also clear it.
So when the next, so basically, how do you get back to your regular web page? You would have to close out the whole browser. The person would have to start, like if a new player wanted to play, we would have to close the whole browser.
Yeah, in this case, on this machine. So this is local to my specific. If I like copied over this file and uploaded it to GitHub and you cloned it down and uploaded it to yours, it wouldn't, local storage would only persist on your web browser.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And so, and it's not across web browsers either. So I'm going to open up Safari and see it changes here. So it's only on, if I did Tom, whoop, and submit, there we go. So it's only local to the browser on the machine. Another thing, local storage, I said it stores things in key value pairs. So I can also like local storage dot set item like age or list and some list like so. The value will always be a string. So if you said like, I want to create a list, but I want it to have this list to be an array of numbers, it will still store that array of numbers as a string. So I can say like local storage dot set item. If I wanted to create a to-do list, and I'm like, you know what? I want it to be an array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, something like that. And if I try to save it, notice how it's literally a string of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's not a list right there. But there's a way you can store it as a kind of like a list, but it's a stringified list. So if this to-do list, maybe I wanted to change it as a list, I could say JSON dot stringify, because right up here there isn't a angle or square brackets to signify that it's an actual JavaScript list. But if I stringify it, this list, and go to local storage, now it's got those square brackets. So now it actually kind of looks like an array. So JSON.stringify will store it as a stringified array or a stringified list. So if you want to store multiple items, even if it's like an object. So if I wanted to do like local storage that set item, some object, I'll have to do JSON.stringify. And whoop, oh no. Dang it. Cool. Dot set item, some object, JSON.stringify, because I want to stringify so here's like key value. Whoa. Age like 45. Let's see if I did this right. So if I do local storage, so now you can see that this sum object is a stringified version of like a JavaScript object. Now, if you want to extract this array or this object from local storage, so if I did local storage dot, I'm gonna actually clear. So local storage dot get item, Let's see what they're. So local storage. Dot get item. What is it? To do list. If I wanted to grab the to-do list, notice how it's a string of like a stringified list. But I can parse this stringified list and turn it into an actual JavaScript array by doing JSON.parse and pass the local storage dot get item to do list. And now that's an actual JavaScript list I can work with inside of my app.js, my JavaScript file. Same thing with some object. Now it's an actual JavaScript object versus a stringified version of a JavaScript object. So just remember local storage key values, but the value is always a string. Any questions on storing items in local storage as arrays or objects?